Hey everyone, it's Justine here with a new card tutorial. Today I'm going to be featuring the brushed paper pack for a brushed paper pack blog hop. I'll link to the blog hop below in the description and you can follow along and see some awesome projects using this paper pack. I'm going to be starting off using a Budding Friendship stamp set from Close to My Heart. I'm going to be featuring Close to My Heart supplies throughout this video, and if you're from Canada and are interested in any of these supplies, just let me know. Alright, so I started off and I grabbed some masking paper from Inkadinkado and I'm just inking it up using black ink. You can use any color ink at this point, it wouldn't matter. I stamped both of those flowers on here. In the end, I only needed the big flower. I just wasn't 100% sure where I was going with the card at first. So you just need to actually stamp one of those big flowers onto the masking paper and you should be fine to create this card. I then did a little bit of fussy cutting and I cut out the flower. Once again, you only need one of these flowers and you don't need all those images that I stamped on there. So I started off with a card front that was measured 4 by 5 1/4 inches. I did end up cutting this down 1/4 inch to make it 3 3/4 inches by 5 inches. So if you wanted to start off with that size, you're more than welcome to. It's just going to look a little bit different when you're stamping it. I inked up the Budding Friendship stamp here, the large flower, and I stamped it on to my paper. And I just rearranged it there so I would like the way it was stamped, so it wasn't too high on any particular side. I stamped that sort of in the middle, a little off to the left, and pushed down to get even pressure. I took my mask that I had cut out earlier that I showed you, and I just put the mask over this flower. I find when using this paper, it's easier to pull the white from the blue, and instead of trying to pull the backing off of it. I don't know why, it just is easier to pull it off. So you just want to line that up perfectly there and put your mask on the paper. Now you're going to ink up that stamp once again using black ink, and you're going to stamp it to the right of this flower, overlapping your mask. This makes it give off the appearance that there's some flowers in front of the others. Okay, so as you can see, it didn't stamp the best there. I didn't get a very even impression, and that's okay because we have a clear stamp and we can line it up once again and push on that spot and it should work out for us. Now, I'm not exactly an expert in doing that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it worked out really well here, so I was quite impressed. The next thing I'm going to do is take the solid image that belongs to this set, and it's to go inside of the flower. I decided to stamp it sort of offset on purpose because I like the way that that looks. I'm not just trying to cover up a mistake or anything by doing that. So I grabbed the Pixie ink from Close to My Heart. It's a really light, soft pink, and I inked up my stamp. If this is your first time using the stamp set, this is a solid stamp, so you might have to stamp it a couple of times on a scrap piece of paper in order to make sure that you get an even impression. So yeah, I didn't do that, but it worked out for me okay. So again, I'm just lining it up so that it kind of makes sense according to the stamp, but it's not going to fit perfectly in the lines. So I just fiddled with it here and got it to a place that I liked. I stamped down and I actually put down quite a bit of pressure on the stamp press. And then I inked it up again using Canary ink. This is a nice yellow ink. And I put the mask on the flower for some reason. I didn't want to do that, and you'll see why, because when I remove the mask, the yellow part is missing. So I had to go back in and restamp that. And with the stamp, it's quite difficult because there are so many details and edges. So when I stamped down, I didn't get it perfect, but in the end, you'll never be able to notice. So it is a little bit of a darker color than the actual Canary ink. The next thing I did was take the smaller flower from the set, ink it up with black ink. I put on my mask again and stamped that to the left of the flower this time. I ended up stamping that flower stamp 3 times. I stamped the inside of it with the Pixie ink, and then I stamped the outline again to the right of the largest flower, again put on the mask, stamped it with the Canary ink this time, and then wiped off and cleaned off my stamp. Then I decided that it was looking a little empty, so I put the mask on once again and decided to add a 3rd flower. I thought it was much more appealing looking with the 3rd flower. I inked that up using Pixie ink and then removed the mask. The next step was to create a sentiment, so I decided to do a banner, and I just made a small dot so that I could create a banner. I did the small dot and cut from each corner to the middle of the dot there and from each side. So this is quite a shallow banner that I'm creating, but that's what it had to do to fit the sentiment on there. So I grabbed the A Budding Friendship sentiment from the stamp set, and I couldn't decide exactly what color to stamp it in, so I decided to use black ink. And then I decided to take some Pixie ink and then do kind of a shadow off of the black ink. At first I wasn't really a fan of it, but then after stamping it in just black ink and testing it on the paper, I did really like it. Alright, so the next thing I had to do was cut out some paper for my card, because this is featuring the paper pack brushed by Close to My Heart. So I cut this out at 4 by 5 1/4 inches, and then I lined up my card. So again, in the beginning I had said I had to cut down my card a little bit, and I cut it down to 3 1/4 inches by 5 inches. So I took the card front, and I glued it onto a piece of brushed paper from Close to My Heart. This is a really awesome paper pack. It's a perfect spring paper pack. It's kind of feminine, but it does have some lime green paper in there that'll work for both genders. I really like the paper pack, and I ordered a couple packs for myself. I placed this in the middle so that it had a nice border around the card. It really brought out that yellow ink, I think, of the flowers by putting that same yellow colored patterned paper behind it. And overall I was satisfied. But I had to decide what I was going to do with my sentiment, whether I was going to just glue it on the card or whether I was going to back it using patterned paper. And I did decide to use patterned paper to back it because I thought it looked too plain. So I grabbed another piece of the brushed paper pack and I glued my banner onto it. I then cut around it to give it a nice even border. I just kind of measured it and eyeballed it and cut out the bottom of the banner once again. You'll get a close-up of exactly what that sentiment looks like at the end of the video. I added some Tombow Mono glue, and I decided to glue that over the flowers and attach it to a card base. So I glued the back, there's that lime green paper I was talking about, and glued that onto my card base. I think the white in the card is quite stunning, and it really made the card. You could have done a black background as well, and that would have brought out the outline of the flowers, I believe, quite well. I wanted to stamp a sentiment on the inside of the card because A Budding Friendship isn't exactly a popular title to put on a card, so I wanted to make sure that the person I was sending this to kind of knew where I was going with that. So I grabbed the sentiment from this card, from the stamp set, and I stamped it using Pixie ink into the inside of the card. Because the card looked a little bit plain, I decided to add a white enamel arrow embellishment, as you can see, and I think that really made the card. Here's a close-up of the title and of the final results. Thank you so much for watching. Here you can click the subscribe button and you can connect to me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I also have 2 videos for you of my recent cards that you can click on and keep watching through. Thank you so much for watching, and please leave a comment.